Alright, to start this dinner, I'm going to start with the quinoa because that takes the longest to cook. If you're not familiar with quinoa, it's a tiny little seed that's grown in South America, and it's pretty darn good for you. We eat it kind of as a substitute for rice. We eat it in places where you would normally eat rice, and it has kind of a nutty flavor. I like it a lot. And these seeds do expand to probably about 3 or 4 times their dry size, so you don't need a lot. Usually for our family of 3, I make 1 cup of dry quinoa, and that makes about 3 or 4 cups of cooked quinoa. And I make quinoa exactly like I make rice. I have 1 cup of quinoa, and then I'll do 1.5 cups of water. As you can see, I don't have any measurements on this measuring cup here. They're all worn off. You don't actually need a measuring cup as long as you use the same container that you measure the quinoa and the water, and just do 1 to 1.5 ratio. You'll be good. And these little quinoa seeds do tend to float, so I'll give them a little stir just to get most of them down there into the water. And the burner's on medium-high. This is just a small volume of water, so it'll only take probably 3 or 4 minutes to get up, start to boil. And once it starts to boil, I'm going to put the lid on and turn the heat all the way down to as low as the burner will go. And that's just going to sit there. In about 20 minutes, that quinoa will be ready to eat. But that's just going to sit there on low heat and finish cooking and stay warm while I finish cooking the rest of the dinner. Here's the chicken. These are chicken breasts. Thighs would be good too. These are boneless chicken breasts. I'm going to trim off any pieces of fat or skin that are left on there. I like using kitchen shears for that. Works a lot better than a knife, and I don't have to get a cutting board dirty. I'm going to cut these chicken breasts into about 1.5 inch chunks or so. It doesn't need to be exact. The main reason is just for portioning and just to make it cook a little quicker. Smaller chunks will cook faster. And I've got an oiled pan here preheated on medium-high, and in goes the chicken. I'm going to start that chicken browning. And while that chicken's browning, I'm going to get the mushrooms ready. These are just white button mushrooms, but use your favorite mushroom of choice. I've washed and cut up these mushrooms into pretty thick chunks, probably about 1/2 inch thick there. I want these chunks nice and big because they're going to really shrink a lot once they start cooking. If you don't want chunks of mushroom in the finished dish, you could chop these mushrooms up really fine and they pretty much would just disappear in the dish. There wouldn't be any visible chunks, but you just have a lot of mushroom flavor. So after about 5 minutes, that chicken's looking like it's getting about ready to be flipped. I'm going to add some seasoning on that. This is Body a Complete seasoning. It's just a general all-purpose seasoning. If you don't have a particular blend that you like, I would just add salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. But I'm going to go ahead and give this chicken a stir. I'm not going to pick up each piece and flip it. That's just too tedious for me. I'm just going to stir it up with the spoon and get it mostly flipped over. I'm not really trying to get both sides browned per se. I just want to get some browning and some fond on the pan to develop some flavor. And I'm going to let these go for another 5 minutes or so until the pan looks a little like this. Most of the excess moisture has been evaporated, and I've got some more browning going on here. And I'm going to get the chicken out of the pan and onto a plate, and that's just going to sit there on the side for a couple minutes here while the mushrooms get going. Now, mushrooms contain a lot of water, and I know it might seem counterintuitive to add water to the mushrooms, but that's what I do here because it actually works better if you add a little bit of water and bring those mushrooms up to a temperature where they'll start releasing their water. The sooner you can get them up to that higher temperature, the sooner they're going to release that water, and then you can just evaporate any excess water after. So it only takes 3 or 4 minutes for those mushrooms to get heated up enough to start releasing their water, and lid comes off, and then just going to go ahead and reduce that down, let all that excess moisture evaporate until I've got some nice brown looking mushrooms here. Next is the cream. This is a pint of cream, and I know it might seem like a lot of cream, but it's going to reduce a lot here over the next few minutes as I cook it. And I'm going to add a little bit more of that body of seasoning at this point just to kind of give the mushrooms and the cream sauce kind of a matching seasoning to go with the chicken. And I've got medium-high heat here. I'm going to put the lid on until that cream gets warmed up and starts bubbling. And you got to keep an eye on this here because it'll kind of froth up and it could boil over on you if you don't pay attention to it. But once that cream's heated up, in go the peas. These are frozen peas. They're still frozen. And I'm just going to dump them in and stir those in, put the lid back on, let that come back up to temperature one more time. I'm going to put the chicken back in the pot, and all that's left to do now is just to reduce this cream down to a thicker consistency. So I'd turn the heat down to about medium right now and just kind of let it bubble, give it a stir every minute or two just to reduce it down. And once you start seeing little gaps here where you pull across and you see how the sauce doesn't immediately just zoom right in there and fill in that gap, that's when I usually stop. And I know it looks a little bit runny here, but it will thicken up more actually when you take it off the burner and it starts to cool. And this dinner's done. This creamy chicken is being served on a bed of that quinoa that we cooked earlier, and a little piece of toast on the side just tops it off. This is a simple and delicious meal that's pretty easy, doesn't take very long, and makes great leftovers too. I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. See you on the next one.